All right. So we're going to start talking about what is college? Why do we even care about it? All those things. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in slideshow mode and we're going to go from there. So when we start talking about college, what is college? What is the point of it? There's a lot of things that are kind of overwhelming when we start talking about it. So I'm going to break this into multiple different videos for you guys. And we're going to try using the same format that my psychology kids use. And we're going to do this where it is more self-paced. And as long as you're getting it done by the end of, the time frame I give you, that we are all good with it. Okay. So in this unit, you guys can see your standards off to the corner. If you need to pause and look at it, definitely feel free to do that. And I will say one benefit of doing this as opposed to me standing in the front of the room talking is that you can pause this when you need to and you can go back to it. So if you don't get something, we don't have to sit here and, go over it 5 times. You can rewatch the video and that's totally fine. And it gives me time to go and have you guys ask questions of me. All right. So definitely make sure you're paying attention. But know that if you need to go and pause it, you won't lose any of the information. All right, so today we're going to talk about just kind of a brief introduction of what is college and start going over the requirements. So let's talk about what is college. Why does it seem like it's mandatory? Why does everyone always encourage it? Why are you in a whole class that's labeled college and careers instead of just careers? Well, college is an educational institution, right? So just like high school, just like middle school, elementary school, it's an option to get an education. Why does it seem like it's mandatory? Well, it does offer more job opportunities, and statistically, it can offer more money. Now, a lot of people will push college because of this. So, some parents will be super like, hey, you need to go to college. You need to go to college so you get a good job. You need to go to college so you can do this. For some people, they don't choose to go to college. And we will definitely spend some time talking about trade schools in this unit where we'll be like, hey, this is what's going on. But know that even if you don't choose to go to college, you can still get a decent job that does pay a lot of money. All right, so pros and cons of going to college. So, some pros. One, as we said before, you have more job opportunities. There are some jobs that if you have that bachelor's degree, if you have that master's degree, even if you have that associate's, you're almost guaranteed a job. Now, there are other jobs where it's not really that relevant. So, it kind of has, its perks. It really depends on what you want to do. And that's why it's so important to know what you're going to study whenever you plan going to college. Know what kind of jobs do you want? What are some backup jobs? What are some things you may be interested in? And really think about, hey, when I'm done with my degree, what can I do with it? Because I will tell you guys the exact same thing. When I started college, I 100% wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go to law school. I was super dead set on it. And honestly, me having my bachelor's is what got me to start subbing because that was a requirement for substitute teachers, actually. And once I got done with my bachelor program and started subbing and was like, hey, this really isn't that bad, I ended up going back and getting my master's while still working. So know what opportunities are there for you. All right. If you're getting a bachelor's, in psychology, what can you do with a bachelor's in psychology? What jobs will pay you more just because you have that bachelor's? And kind of keep an idea of it because you may change your mind up to 10 times before you graduate college. Next, we're going to talk about meeting people from all over the world. So it does not matter what school you're going to, even if you're going to Indiana Tech, Purdue, Fort Wayne, you decide to stay local, you are going to meet people from all over the world. A lot of schools actually do offer contracts with different countries. So what they'll do is say, hey, if you take some American students, let them go to school over here, we will take some students from your country. And I'll tell you, going to Indiana Tech, my freshman, sophomore year, it was Brazil. So we had a lot of Brazilian students on our soccer team. We had a lot who were playing various different sports. We had a lot of Brazilian students in our classes. We got to learn about their culture a lot. My junior and senior year, they brought over students from Saudi Arabia. So you get to kind of expand your horizons because you're sitting with people who maybe you normally wouldn't have spoke with. You normally wouldn't have talked to, but now you're working on a group project together and you kind of have to get to know each other. So it is something that can be very exciting. It is something where you can, diversify the people you know just by being there. Next, you can explore a new city or town or see more of your current one. So, a lot of you guys, whenever I heard you guys talking about your college things, that I don't want to stay in Fort Wayne anymore. For some people, they definitely want to go explore somewhere new. And for some of you guys, you'll start to realize, hey, maybe it's not feasible to go to school in, Georgia, Alabama, New York, Texas, California. Maybe I just don't have that kind of money right now. Maybe that school doesn't have what I want. If stuff like that happens, definitely don't give up on your dream of going to those places. Don't give up on your dream of trying to look for jobs in those places. But even if you have to stay in Fort Wayne and go to school, trust me, you do not have bad options here. Again, people from all over the world are still coming to Fort Wayne, surprisingly. So, one benefit is if you do end up moving to a new city or town, you get to immerse yourself in that culture. Even if you move to a new country, you're now in this new spot. You get to see everything. You get to live like how they do. You get to see all the cool stuff that they used to see. I'll tell you, that's a super awesome thing. So, I told you guys I went to Notre Dame for a summer program, and I ended up going to IU in Indianapolis. There are so many things that I remember doing both in South Bend and Indianapolis where I was like, I love this. And still to this day, I go and do this. So if I go to a Notre Dame game, you can bet I'm showing my family, like, this was the dorm I stayed in. There's this little area right here that no one really knows about, but it has like all these restaurants in it. It's like a little food court. You just walk in and get what you want. Oh, did you know about this? Did you know that people can come in and visit over here? Same thing with IU. So you start to get used to these little towns and you start to see stuff that you enjoy. And it's really an awesome feeling. Now, if you're someone who goes to school in Fort Wayne, and trust me, I completed my bachelor's and master's in Fort Wayne, and you're like, oh, I've lived here my whole life, there's nothing new. I'm going to tell you, you're bound to find something new. So there are usually parts of the city that we just don't really go to. We don't really explore as much. That happens naturally. That's pretty normal. But one awesome thing is that when you are going to school, even locally, you are going to find something new. You're going to have friends who say, hey, let's go here. And you're going to be like, what is that? Oh, that's a new place? Or you're going to say, I never knew this even existed here. And you're going to have so many awesome opportunities. So definitely don't dismiss staying in Fort Wayne, going to school. But if your dream is to go to a different city, town, country, then definitely live that dream out. Next are opportunities to network. So, networking is essentially just you putting yourself out there in hopes of, building some sort of relationship to potentially get a job or something else in the future. Now, when it comes to networking, it is not just something where, you go around and you're just like, hi, my name's Miss Sailor. Do you have jobs? Typically, what happens is you start to build a relationship with those people. And when that job opening comes up, they remember you and they're more likely to actually hire you. So, those opportunities to network, there are so many out there. And it's definitely something not to kind of dismiss. So, one thing you guys can do right now, if you guys take advantage of the GM field or the GM day, or you guys do any of the Gear Up field trips for freshmen or the college visits when you're older, that is an opportunity to network. So what you can do is, same way we talked about, hey, you go in, you show up, you're respectful, and they say, oh, I remember I had this group of kids from Wayne. You went to Wayne? Were you part of that group? Oh, awesome. You guys were great. I definitely want to hire you. That really does happen. Or maybe you went to a resume building event in your college, because they will have a lot of those where you just walk up with a resume and people critique it for you, tell you how to fix it, and then they get you ready for a job. If you do that, chances are you're going to meet someone who is either a professor, who works in the office, who is a current student, who is maybe a little higher up than you, and they're going to be able to help you with that. And then if you have like a good conversation with them, maybe somewhere down the line when they're looking for someone in their field, they're going to say, hey, I remember that person. They were really cool. They got their stuff done. I appreciate them. Let's go ahead and do this. Another big one is social media. So I know, surprisingly, we talk about social media and we kind of talk about how it's bad and everything like that. But there are numerous websites that mimic Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and they are career-based. So LinkedIn is a big one. And I may have you guys sign up for it just to kind of see what it's like and get an idea before you end up going to go look for jobs. But LinkedIn is a way where you can actually find professionals in areas that you want to work in, and you can add them on there and you can start communicating with them. Otherwise, you can just have your whole like bio filled out and you can say, hey, I graduated from Wayne. I went to this college and graduated. I enjoy these hobbies. And then those people can actually search your profile or look for people who are interested in these jobs and start making that connection with you. So, LinkedIn is something where I know my college encouraged us to do it because we had like a professional communication class, kind of similar to what we'll be doing the rest of the semester. And we had to make a LinkedIn and actually communicate with people. And it is something that can be useful, and some people do get jobs off of it. Final pro is class options can fit your schedule. So we'll talk more about that later. I'm not going to spend too much time on it in this video because we're already getting a little bit longer. But just know that you can have classes that fit your schedule. Some cons. So the ones that we hear a lot, it costs a lot of money. And it really can cost a lot of money, especially if you're not working while you're in college. You most likely, if you don't have, people in your family who can give you a decent amount of money, which is normal. Most families don't have that extra money where they can fully support you while you're going to school. So if you're in that situation, don't feel like it's a lost cause to go to college because you still have options. I was exactly in that spot, and I will tell you, I still had many options. One of the biggest complaints that people see as a freshman is being away from home. So a lot of people will actually sit there and say, hey, this is just too much. My support system isn't there. That is one of the biggest complaints you'll hear in college is that the support system isn't there. So when we talk about your support system, it's important to make sure you have people that you can communicate with, who you love and care about, who can be there for you. So when you go to college, especially if you go away and you are in a new city, new town, new state, new country, you're not going to have the same people there for you. So you're going to have to work a little harder to find a support system. So, for example, let's say you go to Purdue, Maine, which is in West Lafayette, which is a few hours away. You're not going to necessarily have, your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, friends. You're not going to have all those people there with you. Chances are you may not have very many friends who go there. I will tell you the year I started Indiana Tech is a private school, but it is a relatively smaller school. You get to actually see all the people that are starting with you. I will say I probably had 5 people from my high school who ended up going to Indiana Tech. And most did not last. I think 3 of us graduated. So you're not going to necessarily have people that you know. You're going to have to put yourself in new situations. You're going to have to make new friends. And to an extent, yes, you'll be able to call your family whenever. You'll be able to come home and see them whenever. Unless you live in a different country or way across the US, there's a good chance you're going to be within driving distance of your family. But you're going to have to find somewhat of a new support system. So I will say a lot of colleges actually have therapists for you on campus that you can use for free. And they do talk to you about that adjustment being away from home. That's one of the biggest things they're trained in because so many people feel like they need to drop out because they can't be around people they know. Or it just feels like too much and it's not what they're used to and it's overwhelming. So if you start feeling that way when you're in college, it happens to everyone. Don't dismiss it. Don't just, push it down. Definitely get help, talk to people, try to make new friends. And at the end of the day, if you try that for a while and you're like, hey, I just don't really like this school's culture, I don't like what's going on here, I don't really like the people here, then that's the time to kind of weigh out that decision of if you want to stay at that school or transfer somewhere else. But when it comes to just, hey, I just feel alone, I don't have people, trust me, even if you commute from home and you are just driving 15 minutes away, you're going to get that feeling sometimes because all the friends that you have built up until this point, there's a good chance that a lot of them will be away also. So that's a totally normal feeling to have, especially when you're starting something new, when you're starting a new job, new college. You're not going to know anyone. And that's why when I push you guys and say, hey, look, I really don't care who you're in a group with because you're going to have to get to know different people sometimes. That's exactly why we do that. And that's exactly why your other teachers push for it too. And why you kind of randomly get assigned groups. Because if we just put you with just the people you knew, you're not going to learn those skills to expand out and start talking to other people and to easily adapt whenever it comes to new situations like colleges, jobs, etc. So it's not just us being mean, it's us helping you develop those new skills. The last two kind of go together. So we have heavy workloads and very stressful. So when it comes to heavy workloads and very stressful, I will tell you, it is stressful to be in college, and you will have so much more work than what you had in high school. All right. It is something where you will be stressed out. You will be upset occasionally. You will be, just work to your core. You will be tired. And that is a completely normal thing. All right. That is something where it happens. Even with the best colleges, the best jobs, even if you think, hey, this school is not that hard, I'm going to go there, you will still have times when you feel like that. So it's really important to practice wellness to kind of figure out what calms you down, what helps you relax. All right, so this is our last slide for this video. I know this one's been kind of long, but if I'm not staying up here talking from you guys, I want to make sure you guys get the same information. So what are the general qualifications to go to college? First and foremost, high school diploma or GED. You have to show that you met that core curriculum. Second, your ACT or SAT scores. So these are the standardized tests. You guys will all have to take the SAT once you hit your junior year. When it comes to the SAT, it is long. It is tiresome. It can be, boring, or it can be annoying with all the rules, but it's super important that you try your best on this test. I will tell you, some schools, they really do care about it. Other ones, they really couldn't care less. So when you're taking it, think about the school that you're going to. All right. When your score comes back, even if it's not the best score, you can always retake it. Thankfully, the SAT and ACT are not the kind of test where you can only take it so many times during a certain time frame, like how some grad schools have. The SAT, as long as you're paying for it, because our school very thankfully does give you guys that free opportunity. And you get to take the practice SAT twice for free and take the actual SAT once for free. And I will tell you, that is a huge, huge benefit. And I know you guys might be like, hey, that's annoying that we have to do that. I don't want to sit there in a room and just take an SAT all day. I'm going to tell you, the opportunity that you guys get with taking that free SAT and even with the free college classes is a huge leg up on other kids. When I was in school, it was because I had free and reduced lunch because my family was low income. I got 2 SAT or ACT waivers a year. And if I wanted to take it more than twice, then I paid the $35 to $40 before fees and had to pay for it every time. Students who did not fall in that, whose families made, a little bit more than what mine did, they had to pay for it every time they took it. And some people took 2 to 3 attempts to get it. But we didn't get that free SAT option. So please take that seriously when it comes to you guys' time to take it, because that is a huge leg up. And if you're getting it done your junior year, towards the end of the year, that means as soon as you get that score back right before summer, you can actually start applying to colleges and have your senior year just be you chilling out. Just make sure you pass your classes and you don't have to stress out as much because you're already applied. Theoretically, you're already accepted. So take advantage of that. Know what scores they want. Try to get to those scores. If you want to use prep materials, definitely let me know. I can help you find some really awesome prep materials. But I will tell you, even if your score is not where you want it to be, even if you think your score is the worst score, depending on the school you're going to, you can still do good. So I had a student from last year who is just exceptional, goes above and beyond. English is not her first language. So when it came to standardized testing, it was a little bit difficult for her. Though she is fully capable, she has like over a 4.0 GPA. She is, great at what she does. And normally it doesn't come up. Standardized testing can be hard, especially if you know multiple languages. It can be a little bit more difficult. So when she took her test, she didn't do very well. She said, hey, some of it I just didn't get. And then just sitting there for 8 hours, not 8 hours, excuse me, for 4 to 6 hours straight, it's kind of, tiring. I just couldn't focus. I wasn't prepared for it. She didn't do very well on her test. She definitely got on the lower end of the scale. But I will tell you, the school that she's going to, she got the highest financial aid package. So her schooling for the next 4 years is basically paid for between her financial aid from being low income for her GPA, for the activities that she has outside of school, and because she came in and she was trying and got everything done. So just because you get a bad SAT score does not mean you aren't, you're lost cause. You're not going to go to college. It's not going to go well. That is someone who's now making $16,000 a year towards tuition for free just because she tried and she does all these other things. She has a decent GPA. She goes and volunteers. She's part of various clubs around the school, everything like that. So those opportunities are big for you. And if you are someone who comes from a low income family, you will have financial aid options. So when it comes to paying for school, figure out what school you want to go to, make the smartest decision for you, and then start looking at, hey, what kind of scholarships can I get? What kind of financial aid can I get? Because if you are the first person in your family to go to college, you automatically get more money. If you are low income, you are almost guaranteed an education. And some schools, a lot of Ivy League schools or bigger schools, if your family makes less than $60,000, you will actually get free tuition. They will give you enough scholarships to at least cover that. So that is a huge, huge, awesome step up, especially if you're low income. And I will tell you, the school that the student I was telling you guys about went to, I went to the same one, and being low income, having a high SAT and GPA, I actually got money back in my account afterwards. When we talk about financially, I'll explain how that happens. But I essentially got $2,000 to $5,000 a year that they just gave me for free because of how many scholarships I was able to get. So definitely, definitely, definitely try to get your best score, but just do it. See how it goes. If you need to retake it, there is no harm in retaking it. There's no embarrassment in having to retake a test. Trust me, when I tried my ACT, it was bad. And I did awesome my SAT, but not every test is for the same person. Next is your GPA. So your GPA, again, depends on the school you want to go to. Try to get C's or better and try to keep track of it, because C is going to put you at a 2.0. If you want to go to a decent school, try to get a 3.0. Try to keep it at B's or higher. But a C is not something to be embarrassed about. Next is interviewing. So interviewing does not happen as much anymore. It does happen a lot over Zoom and things like that now. But I will say a lot of your more local schools, or a lot of your, public schools that are just kind of, if you apply and you have good scores, you can get in, that kind of thing. A lot of them don't do interviewing. So it's usually your bigger schools that are more competitive is when you'll start being interviewed, just because they're more competitive. They have way more people applying. They need to weed people out. So they will have you go through an interview process. And we'll talk more about interviews later, but just know you may have an interview for your school, you may not. And it's completely normal either way. Next, personal statements or letters of recommendation. So we talked about those bigger schools that have a lot of people applying to them, but what is a personal statement? How does that impact it? Well, think about sitting there at that bigger school. When you are going through someone's stuff, maybe you'll have 15 people who have the exact same 4.0 GPA. They have, 2,400 on their SATs. They have a perfect score. They all volunteer. They all go and do this. They're all part of National Honor Society. They all play a sport. They're all essentially the same thing on paper, right? Well, just like an interview, that personal statement is your opportunity to say, hey, here's who I really am, and to explain how you are as a person. So they're not necessarily looking for, tell me who you are, the same way I would. What they're looking for is, what is a time that you struggled? What do you do when things get hard? Do you shut down? Do you push through? Do you excel? They're looking at, why are you passionate about this? Why should we let you go here? Sometimes they'll even say, hey, this is our mascot. What qualities do you have that make you think that you will be a good fit here based on our mascot and their, personality? I know that might sound crazy, but that is really questions you'll get asked. Um, so personal statements are your opportunity to say, hey, this is who I really am. So I know on paper, I might just be another high score or whatever, but here is who I really am. Here's something that I struggled through. Here's something that happened to me that made me passionate about this. Here's something in my life that occurred that, it changed who I was, but I didn't let it change me for the worst. That is what they're looking for. So I know some people say, oh, personal statements, why do they always have to sound like so sad? Like, why do I have to sound victimized or things like that? It is not about trying to say, hey, I'm victimized and, I want more money. I want to go here. I deserve it. It's about saying, hey, life threw some stuff at me and this is what I did. This is how I kind of beat back at it. So when we start looking at personal statements, they can get emotional. And I will tell you, if you can write a good emotional personal statement, that impact is going to be great and people are going to remember that. All right. And even after you write your personal statement, there will be people who will say, hey, I'm actually on the board of this school and I read your personal statement and I loved it. So that is an option for you. A lot of schools do require that. A lot of schools also require letters of recommendation. So, letter of recommendation is essentially you find someone in the community who either you volunteer with, you have worked for, a good friend who you've had classes with who can talk about your personality, and you start saying, hey, this person should go here because XYZ. Here's what I think about them. I would totally trust them to do this. And you're pretty much just saying, I would recommend that you let them come here for school, you let them get a job, whatever. And finally, if you plan on going to graduate school, you may have extra standardized testing. So if you plan on going to law school, if you plan on getting a master's, you plan on getting your PhD, anything like that, there are standardized tests for grad school. The same way you take the SAT, you would go through 3 to 4 years of your bachelor's degree. Then you would go take these standardized tests, and then you would start applying for law schools. So it's kind of the same process of high school to college, but just repeated and a little bit more difficult. All right, guys, so we're going to end that right there. Next video, we're going to talk about what types of schools are available.